Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive into Christmas, celebrated every December 25th, pretty much all over the globe.
It really is everywhere.
And for something so well known, its actual meaning is, surprisingly complex. So what we want to do is understand how a religious story, the one about the birth of Jesus Christ, grew into this massive, truly universal cultural event.
An event that brings people together even if they don't share the same faith.
Exactly.
And that's really the core of our deep dive today. We've gone through a huge amount of material, everything from foundational religious texts to, cultural study.
All to pull out not just the story, but the reason why it resonates so widely.
Right. We're going to look at that biblical bedrock, why the symbolism of things like the gifts really matters, and how that all connects to, say, celebrating with lights in the middle of winter.
It's a dense story, for sure, built up over 2,000 years. So to get to that universal part, I think we have to start at the foundation.
Yeah.
The core story of humility and hope. The earliest accounts tell us it all began with ancient prophets who foretold the coming of a Messiah, a savior.
Someone who would bring peace. And what's fascinating right from the start is the context of this arrival. It wasn't, announced to emperors or generals.
No, not at all.
The whole lead up is rooted in very humble, very normal circumstances. We start with Mary.
A young woman who was told by an angel that she would bear a holy child through God's will.
And then there's Joseph, her fiancé. He's just a simple carpenter. The material we have talks about his struggle with this news.
You can only imagine.
Right. Until an angel appears to him in a dream and reassures him. It's this amazing intersection of the divine with very, very ordinary human life.
It all comes down to simple faith and duty.
Which brings us to the setting, and this might be the most powerful piece of symbolism in the entire story.
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem. The Roman emperor had called for a census, which forced Mary and Joseph to travel a long way from home.
Right, back to Joseph's ancestral city. And they get there, they're exhausted, and the city is just overflowing with people for the same reason.
And there's no room for them, not a single guest room available.
That detail is so critical. The texts are very clear. The child wasn't born in a house, but in a stable.
And when they needed a crib, a bassinet, she placed him in a manger.
A feeding trough for animals.
And what's so insightful there is just the raw power of that image. I mean, think about it. The promised King of Heaven is born among the poor in the most basic setting imaginable.
It immediately establishes humility as the highest virtue.
Absolutely. It says that connection to the divine comes through simplicity and love, not through earthly power or wealth.
And the first people to find out about this birth, the witnesses, they perfectly reflect that theme.
They do. We've got two very different groups mentioned in the sources.
The first being the shepherds.
Yes, the shepherds.
Yeah.
Literally the lowest rung on the social ladder at the time. They're out in the fields, and suddenly angels appear with this incredible light.
And they deliver that famous message. Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy for all people.
For all people. That's key. The message is universal, and it's delivered first to the most overlooked members of society.
Now, you contrast them with the second group, the wise men, the magi.
A complete contrast. These were clearly wealthy, highly educated men, scholars. They followed a celestial sign, a bright star, all the way from the east.
They're sometimes called Joia-Turvid in some interpretations, which basically means knowers of the stars.
And their presence immediately signals that this event has global importance. It's drawing attention from other cultures, other societies.
But their biggest contribution to the story, and this is a real aha moment when you break it down, comes from the gifts they brought.
Yes, let's really focus on these three gifts because they are just loaded with meaning. They basically define the child's destiny right there.
The first one is gold.
Gold, that's the easy one. It symbolizes kingship.
Right. It's a gift fit for a king, acknowledging his status as a ruler.
A monarch. Then they offer frankincense.
And that's more interesting. It's a type of ceremonial incense. So was this meant as a direct acknowledgement of his divinity right from birth?
The sources are pretty clear that it was an act of worship. Frankincense was used in temple rituals. It was a symbol of the divine.
So you have the gold for his earthly status as king.
And the frankincense for his spiritual identity as the Son of God, a duality.
And then there's the third gift, and honestly, it's the most shocking one, especially for a newborn baby, myrrh.
Myrrh is crucial. It's an expensive aromatic resin, but it was used for two main things: medicine and for embalming the dead.
To give something used in burials to a baby is That's powerful.
It is. It symbolized sacrifice. It foreshadowed his human destiny of suffering and death, which is, absolutely central to the whole Christian story.
So in just 3 items, you have his entire life laid out. King, God, and sacrifice.
It's an incredible piece of storytelling. The very first act of worship acknowledges all 3 parts of his life and purpose.
So this intense focus on humility and love in the beginning seems to be what allows the tradition to grow beyond just one faith.
I think so.
So if we have the story, the stable, the gifts, what's the takeaway? What's the core message that lets it last for so long?
And that moves us perfectly from the story to the meaning. The whole celebration is supposed to be rooted in living out the message of Jesus.
Which is centered on a few key ideas that really anyone can get behind.
Exactly. They translate across cultures. You have love, meaning compassion for everyone.
You have peace, so forgiveness, unity.
Then hope, the idea of light overcoming darkness. And humility, finding greatness in kindness, not in power.
And maybe the most visible one in the modern world, giving, sharing what you have with others.
It's really hard to argue with any of those values, which is why they can transcend a specific doctrine.
And that idea of giving connects directly to the tradition of exchanging gifts at Christmas.
It does. It's not just about shopping. The tradition is meant to remind us, first, of God's gift of Jesus to the world.
And second, of those symbolic gifts from the wise men.
Right. The point of giving a gift is that it should be a physical expression of those values we just mentioned. Love, hope, sharing your spirit.
And the emphasis is on sharing love, not necessarily wealth. The act itself is the point.
That's it. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the foundation is this. God came close to humanity not through a show of force, but through an act of love and vulnerability.
And that focus on shared values is what lets the holiday transition so smoothly into something much broader, something cultural.
It really does, which I think brings us to that big question.
Why is Christmas celebrated all over the world, even by people who aren't Christian? How did it become a universal festival?
Well, over centuries, it's tapped into these fundamental human needs that go beyond just faith. It's about connection. It's about light.
At its core, it's about family and togetherness.
It is. And it promotes charity, goodwill. It's become a kind of shared global moment to pause and reflect on those things.
And you also have that ancient human need to celebrate light in the darkness.
Oh, absolutely.
For everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, Christmas arrives right when the days are shortest and darkest.
Exactly. So it works as a celebration of light and hope during the darkest time of the year. This actually mirrors the spiritual meaning of other festivals, like Diwali, which celebrates light over darkness.
So that seasonal element gives it a very deep, almost primal relevance that crosses cultural lines.
It ties the physical world to that spiritual message of hope.
So for you listening, if you're not Christian, this is really the key. You don't have to subscribe to the religion to celebrate the values.
That's a great point. The research we looked at compared it to how people might celebrate someone like Buddha or Gandhi. You can honor the core message piece, compassion, without converting.
So people celebrate Christmas as a family festival, a winter holiday, or just a day for kindness, like New Year's or Thanksgiving.
The shared human connection is what gives everyone permission to celebrate in their own way.
And you see that in the cultural traditions, which a lot of people think are religious, but, well, they're not. They're cultural adaptations.
Let's break a few of those down. Take the Christmas tree.
An evergreen tree inside.
Right. It symbolizes life, hope, renewal. Bringing an evergreen indoors in the middle of a cold, dead winter was a powerful reminder that spring and life would come back.
And the lights. All the lights we see everywhere.
They're all about joy, warmth, and positivity. It's that theme again, light pushing back against the darkness and fear.
And then, of course, the big one, Santa Claus.
The biggest secular icon of them all. The original inspiration was a historical figure, St. Nicholas, who was known for his incredible kindness. He secretly helps children and the poor.
So the modern Santa Claus is really just a cultural figure.
Entirely. He's the embodiment of that value of giving. He's there to teach generosity and happiness in a way that's accessible to everyone.
It's just so fascinating how all these cultural symbols, the tree, the lights, Santa, they all tie back one way or another to the core values from that original story.
Generosity, hope, kindness.
So the universal message of Christmas, if you strip away the doctrine, is really about kindness, compassion, peace, and helping others.
And those values belong to all of humanity. The celebration, when you boil it down, is about love, generosity, hope, and human connection.
So what does this all mean for you? We've gone from a prophecy to a stable in Bethlehem to these symbolic gifts and watched that story transform into a global celebration of family and light that touches almost every part of the world.
Yeah, the sources we reviewed really hammer home that contrast. The profound humility of that birth in a manger versus the enormous scale of the global festival it's become today.
A festival that sometimes involves massive, material giving.
But the tradition endures because it's rooted in those shared human values from the original story, not a specific place or date.
It makes you wonder about the power of values over specific rules. How does a core message of, well, radical humility and shared love from centuries ago, how does that ensure a tradition can survive and adapt across so many different, constantly changing cultures?
That's a great question.
That's really something to think about, I think, the next time you see a Christmas light or give a gift this season.